Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For those tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X, we're glad you all could be with us today. Going to bring in our friends over on IG so they can be a part of our chat. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. Have a first timer that's joining us here on the Amazon Live side. Very excited about it. Had a chance to read his debut novel. He now has two other books you guys can go ahead and get prepared for as well. We're going to talk to him about that as well. But we're now live on the Amazon Live side with Cyrus Webb Presents. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, going to type you guys in a welcome message over there. If you are new, make sure you guys hit that follow button either here in this corner or down below so you can stay connected with all of our programming. You also will see the books by our next guest. Dan Buzzetta is with us today. We're going to talk to Dan not only about his love of law and storytelling and how this has been able to come together in his new series featuring Tom Berthe. The first book that I had a chance to read, going to highlight for you guys on the Amazon side, is called The Manipulator. But there's also other books in the series you guys will see there as well. We're going to talk to Dan not only about his love of storytelling, but also how Tom came about and what it's been like for him to hear from you, the readers. Dan, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Cyrus. Really nice to be here.
Well, look, I appreciate that. I'm so glad our mutual friend connected me with you. I really enjoyed the book. We're going to dive into The Manipulator in the series, but I want to talk about this experience for you, as I mentioned in my intro, Dan. Here you are, someone who's found success in law as an attorney. What has it been like for you to now have this new career as a storyteller?
It's been a little surreal, to be honest with you. I've been practicing law my entire adult life.
Mm,
I graduated college and went to law school and graduated law school and started in big law firm life,
yeah,
practicing civil litigation. And I've been doing that for 30 years and I've enjoyed it. I've been fortunate to have success. I've been fortunate to have loyal clients who keep coming back to me. But in the back of my mind was the story that I wrote in The Manipulator. I actually wrote the first three chapters of the book after my first year of law school.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I intended, that was back in 1992, so last century, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I always intended to get back to the book, but life sort of took over, right? Second
Mhm.
year of law school, finding a job, starting a career. I met the woman who would become my wife. We married. We had three wonderful children. And work sort of took over. But in the back of my mind was always the story of Tom Berthe and the Manipulator.
Yeah.
And so in 2020, I picked it back up and wrote it. Spent a year writing it, and it's just been a great combination: practicing law and having a legal thriller series out there.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the layers also of this book and the introduction to Tom Berthe, as I mentioned as well. I hear a lot of authors talk about here, Dan, to write what you know. Did that make the introduction to Tom and the Manipulator? Did it make it easier for you?
It did, I do have two sort of interests or hobbies, if you will. One is the law, right?
Mhm.
I love the practice of law. I love being a lawyer. I love studying the law. I love learning about the law. I do that every day. But the other passion, the other interest that I have, the other hobby is organized crime
Mm.
from an academic viewpoint, right? I've studied organized crime, the history of it. My family is Italian. My father is from Sicily. So I sort of had an interest in that, in the idea of organized crime from an early age, and I studied it. I remember being in eighth grade and writing a term paper on prohibition and how it
Mm.
gave rise in the 1920s to organized crime in America. But the effect that organized crime has had on society, on communities, on our economy. And so I took sort of those two passions or those two interests that I have and combined it into a fictional story in The Manipulator. And it was really fun to write it.
Yeah. What I appreciated so much at knowing only thing I know about law, Dan, is what I've learned in books. but but what I will say that I think readers will love because I know I did in The Manipulator is that you have this character in Tom that is so relatable because he wants to do good.
Right.
And I think it really goes to how all of us are faced with choices, right? Some people start off with really good intentions and motives, and things happen, and that becomes grayer for them. Tom is one of those people who earnestly wants to do good, but he is faced with some difficult choices, especially as he gets to know things that he was unaware of. What was it like for you to play with when it comes to the idea of conscience and also how our lives and our choices can be able to shape us?
So I appreciate you mentioned earlier that Tom is a complex character, and I intentionally made him so.
Mhm.
At heart, Tom is a good person. Tom is a person who is genuine and sincere, and believes in justice and in the rule of law, and understands that the legal system plays an important role in society, right? And wants to use it for good. But along the way, he does find these challenges. He's
Yeah.
challenged morally. He's challenged in ways that allow him to take the easy way out if he wants to, but he makes the difficult choices. He makes choices that expose secrets that he'd rather remain hidden. He exposes secrets about his own life that are embarrassing, frankly, that will call into question whether his achievements, whether all that he's succeeded and achieved in life are his own, or
Mhm.
whether they're the byproduct of someone holding strings above him. But he doesn't care, right? He would rather sacrifice his reputation and what others think of him in order to do what he thinks is right, and what the rule of law would require him to do in the pursuit of justice. And so I really enjoyed combining those themes, and layering on the complexity of a character who is faced with these moral dilemmas and these moral challenges, but rises above it. And at the end, does what he thinks is the right thing to do, no matter the cost.
Yeah, that brings up the idea of collateral damage, though, as well, Dan. That comes up in this book. Hey, Stacy, good to be able to see you over there on Facebook. Glad you could be able to join us. She says it sounds interesting. It is, Stacy. It is definitely one of those books that will would draw you in. Hello, I have another Stacy over on IG. Hey, Stacy, good to be able to see you as well.
I
Glad you
all
could be able to be with us as well. For those who are just coming in, I see you guys over there on YouTube as well. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live, but we are simulcasting it. We're excited to welcome Dan Buzzetti to our broadcast, Buzzetta to our broadcast today. We're talking with him about his writing journey, but also his legal career and how they've kind of converged in this book, The Manipulator, this novel that's out now, and it's so great too. I think, Dan, as I mentioned to you before we went live here, this is my first book to read, but our audience on Amazon can already see other books that they'll be able to dive into as well. We have over there the Winter Verdict. I'm going to highlight for you guys on the Amazon side, but also we have the book. Let's see, let me go back here. System of Justice. So, did you know when you created Tom, Dan, that it was going to be someone you wanted to spend some time with in other books?
So, to be completely honest with you, Cyrus, the answer is no.
Okay.
I set out to write one book. I had this book, as I said, I started writing the first three chapters back in 1992 after my first year of law school. The character of Tom and the story that I tell in The Manipulator, I lived with it for 20 years, more than 20 years. And so I really set out to write one book.
Mm.
And I was fortunate enough when we submitted the manuscript to Severn River Publishing, our publisher, they loved the book. And they came back to us and they said, "We want to give you a multi book deal." And I
Mm.
remember saying to them, "Great, who's going to write the other books?" Right? Because Cyrus, I'm a practicing attorney. I'm a
Right.
dad. I'm a husband. I'm an
Yeah.
attorney, a partner at a law firm. I volunteer in my community. So time was precious to me, and I
Mhm.
really did not set out to write a series book or a multi book a series. But when they gave me the opportunity, and I'm so grateful to Severn River for doing it, and because I fell in love with the character Tom, I knew that there was more to Tom's story. There was more that he could do. There were more adventures that he could get into, and more problems he can solve, more trouble he could get into.
Yeah.
And so when I sat down to write the second book in the series, that was almost as much fun, because here I am
Mm.
creating a whole new story with the same characters. It's not an organized crime book, but it's a whole new set of adventures that Tom gets himself into in The Winter Verdict.
Love it. Felicia is joining us over on Facebook. She gives you a compliment there, Dan. She says he has the voice of a radio announcer.
Someone said they wished I had done the audiobook for the manipulator, but I
Uh-huh.
don't know. We'll see. Maybe
Yeah.
that'll be a fourth career down the
Hey,
road.
there you go. There you go. Well, you bring up something, Dan, I want to go back to, and it ties us into another topic I want to discuss with you, and that is social media, which is such a big part of our world today. One of the videos I noticed when you and I connected with actually just earlier today on Instagram, you have a video where you talked about the question you get about how are you able to do this, being a published author and being an attorney, and you talked about hey, it's not easy because of the way life is. Talk to us about social media for you. I mean, is that something you knew was going to be a big part of your career as an author? Because I'm really curious to know if you had thought about it before actually writing this book.
I guess I'm embarrassed to say I didn't.
Okay.
My kids will tell you that I am a Luddite when it comes to social media. It's something that I was not involved in before I became a published author. I think I had a LinkedIn page and my
Yeah.
firm had a profile on me, but I didn't grow up with it. Right? It wasn't
Right.
my kids now are proficient with it. I have a 23, a 21, and a 16-year old, and I go to them for advice on social media. And I've also have a wonderful assistant, Eliana Oliva, who is my social media manager. She's terrific at it, and so we collaborate and work on it. I wish I had understood the power of social media more at a younger age.
Yeah.
But boy, I'm getting a sort of a crash lesson on the
Yeah.
importance of it, the power of it, and we really try to use it now,
Yeah.
to the extent that we can to promote my books.
Love it. Well, you're doing a great job. Stacy says over on IG, Stacy 247. I have to differentiate because we have two Stacys on. A great backstory, never too busy to do what we love. I love that, Stacy. And Chris has a question for you over on Facebook. Hey, Chris, glad you could join us. Chris says, having a background in law, when you read other law focused books, can you tell that it was written by somebody without a background in law? That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question, Chris. And the answer is yes, you can. Right? I tried not to make the manipulator too much too much legal, using too much legal jargon or making
Mhm.
too much of the law as part of the story, but it seeps in, right? It's hard
Mhm.
not to. And I've tried to. Um, be true to it. Although there's a disclaimer, no one should read my books to get an understanding of the legal process in America. It does seep in. It's there. It's hard not to. But when you read books that are not written by attorneys, I can sort of see where they've kind of fudged the line and made things just a little bit simpler in order to get to the next page.
Mm. Stacy brings up the Stacy Thomas that's on Facebook says, all fiction, nothing true from your practicing law. It inspired by um, your actual practice.
It actually was. There are parts of the manipulator which are based on cases that I've had over my 30 years of practicing law,
Mhm.
people that I've met along the way, interesting events and things that have come up to me as part of cases. I've changed names to protect the innocent. I don't think you can read this book and connect the dots necessarily to any particular cases that I've had, but that influence was there and I relied on it. I leaned on it. I really wanted to bring in sort of those real world aspects, and place them into the story to make it a little bit more realistic, at least for me when I was writing it. And it was great fun writing it and thinking back to those cases that I've had, those people that I've met, those issues that I've dealt with in cases, and how to sort of manipulate them, if you will, right? Change
Yeah.
them a little bit to make them
Yeah.
entertaining for the story.
Yeah. That's a great tie-in to coming back to talking about Tom Birthday, but also the title, The Manipulator, because it's so interesting for me as a reader, Dan, and I'm curious as to your thoughts about this as a person who wrote it. I mean, the manipulator itself could be seen as being more than one individual or entity in this book. And what is so fascinating, we can talk around this, and I think like all of us, Tom has to be careful that he doesn't become the manipulator. What was that like for you to play with?
So that was something that I really enjoyed playing with, and I love when people pick up on that, right? I was
Yeah.
just having breakfast with someone recently, and the person asked me point blank, "Who is the manipulator?" Because as you read the book, there are multiple layers to it, and
Mhm.
as I develop these characters, you see that everyone has their own particular interests, their own goals, and they manipulate others to get to that goal, either
Yeah.
because they were forced into manipulating others or they're doing it for their own personal gain. But I
Yeah.
really loved it. And I will tell you this, I'll admit this, Siren, that the title didn't come to me until I was maybe three-quarters of the way through the book. The book had a different
Mm.
title. But
Wow.
as I was writing the book and I saw all these complexities and these layers and all of these characters that had sort of their own interests and how they manipulated others, it came to me that a great title for the book would be The Manipulator.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so many people. And here's the thing too, it goes to what, and again, I'll talk broadly about this, Dan, so I'm not spoiling anything, but it goes to, even I said, I myself reading the book, that Tom was a good guy. Other people will look at Tom and maybe not think of Tom it's a good guy, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the challenges that he
Yeah.
faces. Sometimes doing good requires you to blur the line along the ways, right?
Yeah.
If the ultimate goal of what you're trying to achieve is justice, um, sometimes it's messy, right?
Yeah.
You can't, it's not necessarily a straight through line from beginning to end. Sometimes you need to do some things and skirt those ethical issues, um, all while having that greater good in mind, right? The ends justifying the means, and I
Mhm.
think Tom is challenged in the means that he needs to navigate in order to get to that greater good. At the end, that was something that I played with that I thought was interesting. That comes out a little bit more in the second book in the series, um, because I do think that it's hard to be a good person. It's hard to do the
Yeah.
right thing all the time. It's hard to just walk that path and have it be a straight line. Sometimes it zigs and it zags.
Mhm. And I think too, again, talking broadly here, and I think the audience will even agree with this when they think about themselves, that a lot of times when it's easier to do what is good, when someone or something that you love is not in jeopardy. I think that's another thing that Tom Birthday has to contend with. In that, a lot of times we don't realize or even want to admit that we may have benefited from things that may not have been good. And I
Right.
think that is the cool thing. Stacy Thomas on Facebook says, "I'm enjoying this conversation and the way he's speaking about being good and it being hard." And Felicia, who's also here from Mississippi, and Dan says, "So are you planning on bringing the manipulator to Mississippi?" So you have been having these conversations with readers. What has that been like for you to hear how readers like myself and others are taken to these characters and the themes of the books?
You know, I never take it for granted that people read my book and then become interested in it and want to know more. It is one of the joys that I have found in this entire process. Obviously,
Mhm.
I'm married to this project, right? I've worked
Yeah.
on it for the last 5 years. I had the story percolating in my mind for 20 years. So I love the character of Tom Berta. I love the story of the manipulator. But when I see people who have so many other things that they could read, right? So many other choices to entertain themselves. But when they choose to read my book, and then they understand the different complexities and the layers and the stories within the stories, I find that heartening. It is what motivated me to write the second book. It's what motivates me to continue to write the third book. It is something that I truly enjoy. Some people look at The Manipulator and they say, "Oh, it's another organized crime book." I think it's so much more than that, right?
Yeah,
It's about
I agree.
family. It's
Mhm.
about moral judgments. It's about the complexities of how do you do good in a world where so much is against you, and it's so hard because you're revealing things that you don't want anyone else to know about you and your family, and the relationship that Tom has with his wife here. He's very protective. of one of his wife and his family, but something needs to be sacrificed in order to get to that ultimate point of justice, and weaving that in there, and the path that Tom gets there, I think is really interesting.
I totally agree. So for our audience on the Amazon side, because we've been talking about the book that I read here, Dan, The Manipulator, they do see the other two. So the next book they should be looking forward to is which one of the two I mentioned?
So today is actually launch day for the second book, The
Okay.
Winter Verdict.
Okay.
It's officially released today. It continues the story of Tom Bertay and his family. It takes place 5 years after the end of The Manipulator,
Hmm.
in a different setting. I like to say that in The Winter Verdict, Tom has traded in the powers of the corridors of power of Washington, D.C., for the pristine slopes with white powder of a small bucolic ski resort in upstate New York. And
Oh.
I never read a legal thriller that takes place in a small upstate New York ski town, and so I decided to write a story like that in The Winter Verdict.
Well, I have to get that one. I have to add that one to my list for sure. And we have to have you back again, Dan, to be able to talk about it as well.
I would
Chris
love that.
on Facebook says congratulations on the book release as well. We really appreciate you spending this day with us again, everyone. Dan Buzzetta has been our guest. The book that I had a chance to read is called The Manipulator, but as you heard Dan mention, the new book that's out today is The Winter Verdict. You guys can get it on the Amazon site now. For you guys joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, there's an author link there for Amazon where you can be able to see the other books by Dan there as well. So definitely take advantage of that. For those of you joining us on X, I'll make sure I put it in the comment section for you. Dan, really appreciate the time today. How can our audience stay connected with you?
My website, danbazetta.com, also Instagram, and some other sites at author Dan Buzzetta. We love connecting with our readers. We love your questions. Thank you so much. It humbles me to know, like I said earlier, with so many different opportunities out there for people to entertain themselves, with so many great books out there, the fact that people choose to take time out of their day to read my book is incredibly humbling. It's something I never take for granted, and I'm really so grateful for it.
Well, we appreciate you, Dan, and definitely looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, Cyrus. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for the
Hey,
opportunity.
it's our pleasure. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.